On this edition of Gameball College Kickoff, we're going to recap the top 4 matchups from Week 3. Also, which teams are we buying and which teams are we selling in our second segment. Plus, of course, the top 4 matchups to look out for heading into Week 4 of the college football season. Stick around. Gameball College Kickoff begins now. What's happening, everyone? Welcome to Gameball College Kickoff, where the football season never ends. I'm Marcus Young Genius Jenkins.
It's your boy, Michael Riley.
And always holding it down for our brother, Luke Harden, who could not be with us in the studio again today. So definitely, as always, we hold each other down because that's just a brotherhood that we have. Now, we're going to kick things off with recapping the top 4 matchups of Week 3 of the college football season. And what an interesting weekend this was. And in the process of this, unfortunately, one team would lose its leader for the rest of the season. So we'll briefly talk about that. First, we'll start with Arizona State and Michigan State. Arizona State would improve to 3-0 on the season after beating top 25 ranked Michigan State by a score of 10-7. We'll dive into that a little bit further here shortly. Also, without disappointment, Iowa and Iowa State was another epic battle with the in-state rivalry. Iowa would prevail by a score of 18-17. We'll talk about that as well. Florida, a big win over Kentucky, but not without losing their starting quarterback for the rest of the season. So, unfortunately for that, if you want to briefly talk about that, how big of a blow is that for the Florida Gators?
Well, that's a big blow in a way because he was starting to get a feel for the system and all that. But Coach Dan Mullen knows what he's doing, and he's a master of grooming quarterbacks. So he's going to make it simple, easy for the other quarterback to step up and all that, and they'll keep it rolling.
All right. Once again, best of luck moving forward to the Florida Gators after losing a quarterback for the season. Clemson, on the other hand, Clemson doing what Clemson does. We talked about this potentially being a trap game. Obviously, that was not the case for the Clemson Tigers. Like we talked about, definitely not missing a step from their championship run a year ago as they would rout the Syracuse Orange by a score of 41-6. Now we're going to take the vehicle and back it up and go back to Arizona State and Michigan State. A big win once again for Herm Edwards in Arizona State as once again they improved to 3-0 on the year. 10-7 would be the score. With this matchup, potential game-time field goal in the fourth quarter gets held back by a flag with 12 men on the football field for Michigan State. Besides that, how was Arizona State able to hang with the Spartans and also come out with this win?
Well, it was a lot of defense in this game. They kept going back and forth, and Arizona State was able to establish rhythm, was able to score, and also score a field goal. And Michigan State had too many penalties, too many mistakes, and 12 men on the field. Come on, you should know that by now. You can't have too many men on the field. I'm like, it's not rocket science, but that cost you a game at home, and it was a lot of battle. I thought maybe high scoring, but both defenses showed up when they needed to. And when it came down to it, Arizona State made the more key plays than Michigan State to win the game. I wasn't expecting Arizona State to win in that hostile environment, but they proved me wrong. And Herm Edwards has really turned this program around. And his second season with the Arizona State Sun Devils, it's just unbelievable. Going from the pro level, he has success. And did end very well from his last year's professional level in the NFL to being in college. First year you was bowl eligible with 7-5 record, and this year you're 3-0 going to a hostile environment and getting a much needed win. If they keep rolling, they could probably be in the potential to play in the Pac-12 championship game and possibly knock their door into the college playoff berth. But they just got to take one game at a time, and they'll get better and better. And Herm Edwards is what Arizona State needs as a head coach. And so far, they're showing it, and he's showing it, and the coaching staff he have, and they created a culture. And so far, everybody's buying into the culture. So big ups to Herm Edwards for turning Arizona State program around. And 3-0 and ranked number 24, that's impressive.
Absolutely. Now, one thing I do want to ask you is, if you're Michigan State, a mental mistake, and it's fundamental as it gets, how do you bounce back from such a big loss like this moving into week 4?
Well, you got to go back, watch film, and I'm not surprised that if the coach make a run laps and run all the field and this, that, you can't have too many mental mistakes. And that's something that everybody should know. If you had 12 men on the field, either call a timeout or run out. And that was just a mental mistake by Michigan State. And unfortunately, that mental mistake cost them the game.
All right, Arizona State, once again, 3-0, Coach Herm Edwards moving Arizona State in the right direction. Now, this game that we're going to talk about, Iowa and Iowa State, of course, a big in-state rivalry. This game seems not to disappoint. 1-point game, but it's just how the game ended. Off of a point, teammates running into each other, and that was probably one of the worst finishes that I've ever seen.
You cannot make this up.
It was the worst. I mean, it was a good battle because if you think about it, for Iowa, it was Keith Duncan. It was field goals. And after field goals, they did get a touchdown in the fourth quarter, but it was mostly Iowa scoring field goals in this game. Besides that play, obviously, where we talk about, once again, you beat yourselves. And that play happened with a little over a minute left in the fourth quarter, and you smacked. They smacked into each other. It was probably one of the funniest things I've ever seen. I gotta ask you this, just off balance though. Does that go up there with the butt fumble by Mark Sanchez to a certain degree, or would you separate those two though?
I would separate them, but the butt fumble is the all-time.
But talk about how the Buckeyes were able to win on the road at Iowa State.
Iowa Hawkeyes, they were down most part of the game. Then they was starting to get the rhythm going. They couldn't score touchdowns, but they was able to get field goals. It was just a lot of battling going back and forth, and they just kept battling and battling. And they eventually got the touchdown, and I was ahead by 1-point game. The defense did what they need to do at the end, make plays and make 3-and-outs and stuff like that. So it comes down to fourth quarter fundamentals. Which team's going to win? Which team's going to be fundamentally sound to win the game? And Iowa was more fundamentally sound than Iowa State. Now, Iowa State had the lead and blew it. And especially with two teammates run to each other, then the ball hits one, that's a fumble. So that was a big crucial turnover. And then you had another turnover. So that's 2 turnovers that they had that cost them this game. But it was a devastating loss at home. Thousands of fans. You had a chance to get the ball back with a minute and something left, and you lose like that. Teammates run to each other and fumble. You cannot script it. You cannot make this up. I'm like, wow. And that's part of football. Anything can happen.
Mental mistakes. That was definitely, it seemed like that was probably the theme of quite a few games going into college football weekend last weekend. And that's going to do it for our first segment. Coming up on the second segment, Mike is going to talk about which teams he's buying, and on the other side, which teams is he selling. Stick around. We're just getting started. Gameball College Kickoff. We'll be back in a moment. What's happening, everyone? Welcome back to Gameball Cards Kickoff. Now, in our second segment, Mike is going to tell us which teams, first of all, are you buying and which teams are you selling?
Well, the teams that I'm buying is one, Arizona State.
Absolutely.
They got a big win on the road. And when you get a big win like that, that further helps out your football program. And they're 2-0 against Michigan State the last couple of years. One at home last year, one in Michigan State's house. So that's two big wins for Arizona State. If they keep that train rolling, they could be a threat in the team. And you also can't forget Washington State. I mean, Mike Leach, he really turned that program around to where he's got good development of quarterbacks in that offense and running game. And he doesn't get a lot of credit for the defense. The defense is balling out for Washington State. And so we'll see if they can go further into the conference play in the Pac-12. You can also buy Utah. Utah is, to me, is one of my favorite teams to watch. And they're fundamentally sound. They may not be sexy offensive-wise, but it's smash-mouth physical football. We're going to punch you in the mouth, run it down your throat, and play good defense. And the other team we can't forget is UCF. UCF beat down a big-time school in Stanford.
Yes,
once you beat down UCF has been up there, but once you beat a school like that, Stanford, that firmly status your program. Mm-hmm. Now, the teams I'm selling, of course, is Tennessee. And other teams I'm selling is Syracuse. They got smacked twice. And another team I was giving praises about in the last episode, I'm going to have to slightly sell is Maryland. Because they went to Temple and got beat up physically, offensively. That Temple defense came up and showed out. And offensively, Temple was just everywhere on Maryland. So if I had to say I'm going to sell a team, I'm going to sell Maryland slightly because they balled out the first two games.
Yes, they did.
Then you go out and lay an egg. Then you go into conference play. It's going to get tougher and tougher and tougher. We'll see if they can bounce back, but those are the teams that I'm buying, and those are the teams that I'm selling.
Now, I do want to ask you for both. Well, for starters, Maryland and Syracuse. The thing I want to ask you is, they played like we talked about the first couple of weeks. They played fantastic. They were great. They were a program back on the rise. Do you kind of give them slightly a pass just because maybe they were kind of getting caught up in their own hype a little bit, and that kind of got to them going into Temple?
I give Maryland slightly a pass, but Syracuse, who got blown out by Maryland by it was 60-some points, and they got smashed by Clemson, 41 points. So that's 100-some points you gave up the last 2 weeks. So I'm definitely selling them out.
All right, and those are the teams in which Mike says he is buying and selling. Coming up.
And who are you buying and selling?
I'm disappointed that North Carolina lost this past week, but I still am on the train of North Carolina. I think that program is moving forward. I was very disappointed also in Maryland because I was like, when was the last time we really talked about Maryland? We know that they've always had a good basketball program. You know, someone outside of the Big 12, I do like watching like the ACC, slightly into the SEC. I'm disappointed in them. Syracuse, I kind of give them one with Clemson because the result of a Clemson football game 9 times out of 10 going into the rest of this season, really, more than likely that's how the outcome is going to be. Syracuse losing to Clemson, I wasn't really surprised. I know we really talked about that this could potentially be a trap game, and they did all but prove us wrong because they look like they are on pace to maybe go back to the national championship. But I'll probably say if there's teams that I'm selling or buying right now, I would say I'm still with Carolina. I'm still with Arizona State. I agree with you on that one. I'm very happy with Herm Edwards finding success at the college program because we talked about this. he's right for collegiate football, and he has the resume. He's going to get the recruits. He's going to get people to buy into his system because, you know, he was a fixture on ESPN for such a long time, and he knows how to get his troops behind him. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that this is a fluke 3-0. We can say we won as far as how they won. I don't think that the whole 12-man situation is the reason why they won. They played outstanding, and they passed a big test against Michigan State. And like you mentioned, 2-0, that's impressive for me. And that's right on time for them going into Pac-12 play. So Arizona, I can see them going into the playoffs potentially this season. And that's who I'm buying. As far as selling, I would agree with, if anything. But also, what about Kansas State? Would you also give them maybe that you're buying that they may be a program that's back on the rise as well? If I had to choose another team because of that big win against Mississippi State.
We'll have to see. If they continue on the winning streak, then I'll buy into them. But I just have to see it. You got to prove it to me, basically. You got to show it. If they can show it, then I can buy into them a little bit.
All right, Kansas State 3-0 on the season. The Jayhawks 2-1, an impressive win at Boston College. Also, hopefully we'll get to talk about them as well moving forward. That's going to do it for our second segment. Coming up, we're going to talk about the top 4 matchups to look out for in Week 4 of the college football season. You do not want to miss that. We're going to do our breakdown of those top 4 matchups, and as always, we're going to go on to our predictions to let you know who we think is going to come out on top. Stick around. Gameball calls kickoff. We'll be back in a moment. What's happening, everyone? Welcome back to Gameball Calls Cookout, where the football season never ends. Now it's time to break down the top 4 matchups heading into Week 4 of the college football weekend, starting with Michigan taking on the Wisconsin Badgers. Mike, why'd you pick this matchup?
This is possibly for the top seed in the Big Ten, and possibly you could punch your punch your ticket into the Big Ten championship. So this is going to be a very physical football game. It's going to come down to which offense has the ball last, which offense wears down the other defense, and which defense is going to step up and make a play. Last couple of weeks, Michigan had had a little issue, some stuff here and there against Army, but Army's going to give everybody money for their run regardless. So if Michigan find a way defensively to stop Wisconsin's running game and force them to be one-dimensional offense, force them to pass, then Michigan do their job. They're loaded on defense, loaded with talent, and offensively they should be consistent. If they can be consistent offensively, they'll win this game. For Wisconsin, what they want to do, they want to be real physical, punch you to mouth, smash mouth football, win time of possession, and take time off the clock and wear down the defense. That's how you win against a big-time defense. And Wisconsin has to play very good defense against Michigan's offense. They can do that. Wisconsin can win the game, and they're at home. The crowd's going to be nuts, and I can't wait to see it.
All right, a Big Ten matchup. We're going to go from the Big Ten. We're going to go to the SEC with a good test between Auburn and Texas A&M. What do you like about this matchup?
Well, this is for potentially to move up in the spot in the SEC West. The SEC West is the toughest division in college sports, period. You got Auburn, you got Alabama, you got LSU, you got A&M, and you got so on and so on. So this is a big test on the road for Auburn, especially that young freshman quarterback who was calm and collected against Oregon in Week 1, coming down to the last few seconds of the game. Can the freshman quarterback deliver in a hostile environment at Texas A&M and get the win on the road? Because that crowd is going to be nuts, rocking, and Texas A&M has a very good defense. So if Auburn get past the task on the road, especially with that young freshman quarterback, then they find themselves in a very good position. Now Auburn's defense, their defense is going to ball out. It's just the offense. Can the offense step up on the road in a hostile environment with a young freshman quarterback to win this game? And for Texas A&M, you're at home. You're a veteran team. You can't have too many mistakes. You can't beat yourself. You got to watch tape, Auburn versus Oregon, the last minute or so of the game. What did Auburn do right and what did Oregon do wrong? And put that in your playbook and stop Auburn from scoring to win this game.
All right, a big-time SEC matchup, and like you talked about, the SEC West, a chance for either one of these teams to move up is definitely on the line. Now we're going to go from the SEC, and we're going to take this one down to the Big 12 with Oklahoma State taking on Texas. Why'd you pick this matchup?
Well, this is a rematch for last year because Texas had a chance to win, and they were undefeated. But when you go into Oklahoma State, they lost. They lost a physical game. It came down to the last play with the quarterback running in for the touchdown, and turnovers played a part of it. But now Texas at home and Oklahoma State is coming to their house. So how will Texas respond from that loss last year on the road? And there's going to be a lot of emotions in this game. Players have to check their emotions because this is a critical game, especially for Texas, going to the Big 12. You lost against LSU. You came back. You bounced back against Rice. How do you go about against Oklahoma State? A very good, talented Oklahoma State at home. So can Texas eliminate the big plays from Oklahoma State offensively to give their offense a chance to win this game? So it's going to be, can Texas defense step up and offensively just ground and pound the ball and get some good plays with Sam Elliker, who's been balling out of his mind the last few weeks. Just keep it simple. If you can do that, you can win this game at home. Now for Oklahoma State, they got some new pieces here and there, but you're going to a very hostile environment. Texas is looking for revenge. So you have to beat them at their game. Use their emotions against them. You have to be fundamentally sound, offensive, defense. If you could be fundamentally sound, not have mistakes, and defense, you could cause turnovers and 3 and outs, Oklahoma State is going to win this game.
All right, Sam Ellinger, like we talked about, this is definitely going to be the test of him not only as a leader, but can he also stay potentially in that Heisman conversation? I think would also be a potential name on the line for him heading into this weekend as well. Now we're going to go from Notre Dame, which I think is a fantastic one. This actually might be my favorite potentially, and that is Notre Dame taking on Georgia. What do you like about this matchup?
Ooh, Notre Dame is looking for payback because they lost by 1 point a few years back at home against Georgia, and especially on that sack fumble on that 3rd down play, which Georgia ended up winning the game. So if Notre Dame can go on the road and establish the running game and be consistent offensively in the pass, because Georgia defense is very nasty, smash mouth, physical, good, very talented defense. They'll get after you. They are loaded. Their front 7 is loaded and their back end is loaded in the secondary. So if Notre Dame can limit their mistakes offensively and not beat themselves, they can win on the road and chew up the clock and win the time of possession. If Notre Dame wins time of possession, their chances of winning are very high. Now, defensively, they have to eliminate big explosive plays from Georgia. Keep everything tight, create some different blitzes, and do something that Jake Fromm has never seen before. If you make them uncomfortable in the pocket, Notre Dame can win this game. Now, for Georgia, you're at home. This is prime time game. What you gonna do? And you want to get back at Alabama, but you have to focus on this game first. And if you can offensively make plays and score points. And defense, if you can continue to do what you do, you'll win at home. But you cannot overlook Notre Dame, because Notre Dame is a very good team. And they're looking to prove people wrong that they can win on the road. And Georgia has to be very careful. They cannot overlook this Notre Dame team. If they do, it could cost them, because they're right up there in the SEC championship conversation with the other teams. So Georgia, there's a lot of at stake for both teams, especially a potential in the college football playoff.
Absolutely. You know what both of these teams did last year, both of them coming off of outstanding seasons. So this is definitely one to look out for. Now we're going to head into the predictions part of the episode, starting with Michigan and Wisconsin. Mike, who do you and Luke have?
Luke has Wisconsin winning at home. I got Michigan winning. It's their time. It's their year. And this is a make-break year for Jim Harbaugh. Mm-hmm. It is a lot of pressure riding. So if they can find a way to be consistent offense and defense, they can win, and they have to shut down Wisconsin's running game, which I think they'll do, and force them to be one-dimensional offense. So I'm going to go with Michigan to win a very close, tight game. I'm going to say a late touchdown. 17-10, Michigan wins a tough one on the road.
I agree and go with Michigan for the simple fact that I don't know what it is about Jim Harbaugh, but with games going into hostile environments, this is when he's at his best as a head coach. And I think that they'll find a way. I think it's going to be close in score. I think it's going to come down to the fourth quarter. I think this is going to also be a very defensive-minded game. I'm going to say this one is going to be 21-17. I like Michigan on the road. SEC matchup, Auburn and Texas A&M. Who you got?
Man, this is going to be another dogfight, because you're in the SEC West. You want to move up, and you want to have that bracket rights. And you're going to Texas A&M. I was just fighting those back and forth. I like the Auburn Tigers to win on the road. And that freshman quarterback showed me a lot in week 1 against Oregon. He wasn't scared. The moment wasn't too big for him. Yeah, he struggled, but he bounced back and got him that win. And Auburn's defense is going to be too much for Texas A&M offense, and they're loaded. So I'm going to say Auburn gets the win at home. I'm going to say this is going to be very low scoring. I'm going to say Auburn gets it 13-10.
All right.
And Luke has Auburn winning as well.
Well, I'm riding on the bandwagon. I like Auburn as well. I just think that they're just more talented on both sides of the football than Texas A&M. Just watching them last week, they were just impressive on both sides of the football. I'm gonna give them a score. I'm gonna say 21-14 will be my score between those two. The Tigers moving on. Oklahoma State and Texas in a big-time Big 12 test for both teams. Who do you got?
I got Texas winning at home, because last year they lost a tough one on the road. They had to swallow a tough pill. And this game, I know it's going to be on their minds. There's going to be a lot of emotion, and sometimes there's going to be a little bit of fighting. But I think at home, Texas has a lot to prove. So I'm going to say Texas wins, score of 31-20 at home against Oklahoma State to go into the Big 12. And Luke has Texas winning as well.
I'm going by way of Sam Ellinger. He's been brilliant this season. I don't see him with the spotlight being on him at home. I don't see him dropping this one. I expect him to throw for at least 3 touchdowns in this, and at least I'll give him 3 touchdowns, 274 yards passing in this one. I like Texas at home. I'm going to give them a score of 28-14 over Oklahoma State. Now, big-time matchup, Notre Dame versus Georgia. Who do you guys got in this one?
Man, Luke has Georgia to winning, but I was just fighting with this one. I wanted to go Notre Dame, but I can't go against Georgia at home in that hostile environment. I got Georgia winning a close one on a late field goal. So I'm going to say Georgia wins, score of 23-20 at home against Notre Dame.
All right. I think, home field advantage. I think also, is Georgia's defense going to show up in this one? I think is the big question for me. I think they will. I'm going to give them a score. I will say this one's going to be 21-17. I got Georgia at home. That's going to do it for this episode of Gameball College Kickoff. Social media, you can find me on Facebook, Marcus Jovel ENT Jenkins. Also like the Jovel Entertainment page as well on Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram, and Twitter as well at Jovel ENT.
You can follow your boy Mike on social media, all social media outlets, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, email, and all that to the right side of me, which is be to your left. So follow and support, and we'll thank you guys for so much for supporting us since day one. And we have reached our 2,000 view episodes on Facebook. So thank you. And we're trying to reach 600 likes or more. So keep supporting and keep hit that like button and hit that subscribe button on YouTube as well. And we can't forget about the other brother who couldn't be here. Facebook, Instagram as Luke Harnett, and on Twitter as Luke Harnett 2. I'm Michael Riley.
I'm Marcus Young Genius Jenkins.
This is Gameball College Kickoff, where the football season never ends. Peace. We are out, and see you next time.